When the car stopped in front of the Boyua Hotel, I straightened my champagne-colored. Tonight's dinner was crucial. It was the key to Jiyu Yanchen's company finalizing a billion-dollar cooperation with the Mu Group. As his wife, I had to hold the line. The driver opened the car door for me, and the cool evening breeze, along with the polite greetings from the hotel doorman, wafted over. I walked in on my stilettos, my mind still rehearsing the greetings I would use with the CEOs later. After all, it wasn't easy for Jiyu Yanchen to get the chance to cooperate with the pastor. In the beginning, I pleaded with my brother Mu Jin, and only after much persuasion did he agree to give Jiyu Yanchen a bidding spot. Now, only the final contract signing remains, and there can't be any mishaps. The private room was in the Cloud Pavilion on the top floor. I walked to the door and was about to push it open when I heard a burst of sweet laughter from inside. The voice was so sweet that it was cloying, and my heart sank inexplicably. After hesitating for 2 seconds, I still pushed open the door of the private room. With this push, the blood in my whole body seemed to freeze instantly. In the huge private room, the crystal lamps were dazzlingly bright. Many people were sitting around the long mahogany dining table, all of whom were prominent figures in the business world. But my gaze was fixed on the main seat, the position that should have been mine. After all, Musha was the client tonight. As Mu Jingyan's younger sister and Jiyu Yancheng's wife, no one but me could sit in the main seat, but now Su Yuro was sitting there. She was wearing a fiery red suspender dress, the neckline of which was very low, exposing a large area of snow-white skin, and the diamond necklace hanging around her neck was so dazzling that it hurt people's eyes. I recognized that necklace. Jiyu Yanchen spent 8 million at an auction last month to acquire it. At the time, he told me it was for a client. But it turns out the so-called client was Su Yuro, and Jiyu Yanchen was sitting next to Su Yuro, not only not finding it inappropriate but even peeling a shrimp for her, his tone gentle enough to drip with water. "Yuro, careful, it's hot." Su Yuro giggled sweetly and opened her mouth, but her eyes bypassed the crowd and landed directly on me, carrying an undisguised provocation. He even deliberately raised his hand to touch the necklace on her neck, his voice not too loud, not too soft. Just enough for everyone in the room to hear. "Yanchen, this necklace you gave me is so beautiful. Just now, Director Wang even asked if it was the latest model." Only then did Jiyu Yanchen notice me at the door. The tenderness on his face froze for a moment, but it was only for an instant. He quickly regained his composure, and without even getting up, he simply raised his chin, his tone as casual as if he were ordering a servant. "Wanxing, why are you so late? Hurry up and find a seat. Don't stand at the door blocking others." I stood rooted to the spot, my fingers clutching tightly at the hem of my dress, my nails almost digging into my flesh. The surrounding guests also noticed something was wrong, and they stopped talking, their eyes darting back and forth between me, Jiyu Yanchen, and Su Yuro. The probing and gossipy looks in their eyes pricked at me like needles. I took a deep breath, suppressing the bitterness in my throat. Now was not the time to make a scene. At least not before my brother, Mu Jingyan, arrived, and I couldn't completely ruin things. Su Yuro clearly didn't intend to let me off the hook. She picked up a glass of red wine from the table and gently swirled it, a sneer curling at the corner of her mouth as she looked at me. "Miss Mu, are you feeling unwell? Your face looks so pale. If you really can't handle it, why don't you go back and rest, so you don't affect Yanchen's cooperation with CEO Mu later? That would be terrible." The meaning behind her words couldn't be clearer. She was implying that I shouldn't be ignorant and that I would be a sinner if I ruined Jiyu Yanchen's affairs. I looked up at Jiyu Yanchen, hoping he would say something fair. After all, I was his lawfully wedded wife. Su Yuro was just a mistress who couldn't see the light of day, but Jiyu Yanchen avoided my gaze, picked up his own glass, took a sip, and silently acquiesced to Su Yuro's words. At that moment, the last bit of expectation I had for him shattered completely. Just then, a sound of footsteps came from the entrance of the private room, accompanied by the respectful voice of a waiter. "CEO Mu, you're here." My heart clenched. My brother Mu Jingyan had arrived. If he saw the scene before him, with his protective nature, he would definitely not let it go. I subconsciously looked at Jiyu Yanchen. and a trace of panic finally appeared on his face. He even subtly tugged at Su-yuro's sleeve, signaling her to restrain herself, but Su-yuro seemed not to see it. Instead, she sat up even straighter and leaned closer to Ji Yanchen, her posture as if declaring her sovereignty. The door of the private room was completely pushed open, and CEO Mu, wearing a black suit, stood tall and exuded a powerful aura. As soon as he entered, the entire atmosphere of the private room changed. His gaze swept across the room, finally landing on the head seat. When he saw the positions where Su-yu and Ji Yanchen were sitting, the temperature in his eyes instantly dropped, and the air pressure around him was so low that it was difficult to breathe. I knew a storm was coming. As Mu Jingyang entered, the air in the entire private room seemed to freeze. The guests who were still whispering just now all shut their mouths, not even daring to breathe loudly, their eyes fixed on Mu Jinyang, who didn't know that the president of the Mu Group was famously protective, especially of his only sister, Mu Wn-ching. Who would dare to touch a single finger of Mu Wn-ching? He could make the other party suffer more than they could handle. But Su-yu seemed to not feel this oppressive atmosphere at all. Instead, she stood up from her seat, deliberately straightened her waist, making the diamond necklace around her neck even more conspicuous. Then, she twisted her waist and walked to Mu Jingyang, her voice falsely sweet. "Oh, you must be President Mu. I've heard so much about you. I'm Su-yu, Yang Chen's companion." She emphasized the word companion, and then turned back to give Ji Yang-chen a flirtatious look, her posture practically screaming, "I am his woman." Ji Yang-chen's face turned even paler. He quickly got up and walked to Mu Jingyang, rubbing his hands together, trying to smooth things over. "Jingyang, you're here. Come, sit. Sit. I was just telling everyone that you were probably almost here." As he spoke, he secretly winked at Su-yu, telling her not to speak, but Su-yu completely ignored him, and instead took an inch after being given a foot. Su-yu reached out and straightened her suspender dress, deliberately revealing a small bruise on her shoulder, her voice a little aggrieved. "President Mu, don't misunderstand, Yang Chen and I just get along well, but Yang Chen is really good to me. Look at this necklace. It was auctioned for 8 million at the auction last month. Yang Chen said it looks good on me, so he bought it for me. Unlike some people, who haven't even received a decent piece of jewelry after being married for so long, it's embarrassing to even talk about it." These words were clearly directed at me. I stood in place, my nails digging into my palms until they hurt, but I didn't show any weakness on my face. I wanted to see how long she could be so smug. Ji Yang-chen's face turned green when he heard Su-yu say this. He quickly pulled Su-yu's arm and lowered his voice. "Yu, don't talk nonsense." "What nonsense am I talking, Su-yu?" Su-yu shook off Ji Yang-chen's hand, her voice suddenly raised 8 degrees. "Yang Chen, didn't you say you liked my straightforwardness the most? Did I say something wrong, Miss Mu? Don't mind me, I'm just straightforward. You also know that it's not easy to start a business these days. Where would you get the spare money to buy you these luxuries? Unlike me, he doesn't have to put too much thought into it. He's willing to buy it for me." These words were even more excessive, not only mocking me for not receiving gifts, but also implying that Ji Yang-chen was wronged by being with me, and that he was willing to be with her. The surrounding guests began to whisper again. Some secretly pointed at Su-yu, their eyes full of disdain, while others looked at me with a hint of sympathy. I knew they were all watching Ji Yang-chen make a fool of himself. A man who rose to power through the Mu family was now being publicly humiliated by his mistress in front of his own wife. Once this got out, Ji Yang-chen's face would be completely ruined. Ji Yang-chen was also aware of this, his face turning red and white. He wanted to lash out but didn't dare to. So he could only smile apologetically at Mu Jingyang and said, "The child doesn't understand. Don't take it to heart. I'll talk to him properly later." Mu Jingyang finally spoke. Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried a chilling sense of oppression. Her gaze was fixed on Su-yu. "You're so old, yet you don't understand basic etiquette. Is this a place where you can act presumptuously? And my sister's husband? Is it your place to interfere?" Su-yu was intimidated by Mu Jingyang's gaze and took a step back, but she still put on a brave face. President Mu, you're wrong. Yang Chen lets me sit wherever he wants. That's between him and me. It's none of your business, is it? And I didn't say anything bad about Miss Mu. I was just stating the facts. Stating the facts. Mu Jingyan sneered and took a step forward. Her powerful aura caused Su Yuro to freeze in place. When did it become an outsider's place to criticize my Mu Jingyan's sister, Jiyu Yanchen? Mu Jingyan suddenly turned her head to look at Jiyu Yanchen, the coldness in her eyes almost freezing people. I'm asking you, who allowed him to sit in this position? Jiyu Yanchen was trembling all over from Mu Jingyan's question. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. How could he dare to say it? Saying that he let Su Yuro do it would be asking for death, wouldn't it? Seeing that Jiyu Yanchen didn't dare to speak, Su Yuro mustered up her courage again and said, President Mu, I wanted to sit here myself. It has nothing to do with Yanchen. Please don't make things difficult for him. Don't make things difficult for him. Mu Jingyan seemed to have heard a joke. His eyes swept over Jiyu Yanchen and then fell back on me. Seeing my clenched hands and the redness in my eyes, the air pressure around him dropped even lower. He reached out and picked up a bottle of red wine from the table, gently stroking the bottle with his fingers. But his eyes were fixed on Jiyu Yanchen and Su Yuro, as if he wanted to swallow them alive. I knew that Su Yuro's provocative act had completely infuriated my brother. And it was their turn to pay the price next. Mu Jingyan's fingers pinched the body of the red wine bottle, and the coldness of the bottle seemed to spread along his fingertips. The whole private room was so quiet that you could hear someone swallowing. Jiyu Yanchen's forehead was sweating, and he quickly stepped forward, reaching out to stop Jinyang. Don't be impulsive. Today is a day to discuss cooperation. Let's talk it over. Don't hurt the peace. % peace. Mu Jingyan twitched the corner of his mouth, his eyes full of sarcasm. Jiyu Yanchen, when you gave my sister's seat to another woman and let this woman humiliate my sister in public, why didn't you think about peace? As he spoke, his eyes turned to me, and the coldness in his eyes softened a little in an instant, and his voice softened a little. Wn Xing, come over here. I loosened the hand that was clutching my skirt and quickly walked to his side. He reached out and patted my shoulder. The strength was just right, as if giving me a reassurance. I looked up at him. The heartache in his eyes couldn't be hidden, and he whispered, "Don't be afraid, your brother is here." Just this one sentence made the grievances I had been holding back instantly surge up. My eyes were a little red, but I stubbornly didn't shed tears. Now is not the time to cry. I can't let Su Yuro see me make a fool of myself. Seeing Mu Jingyan protecting me, Su Yuro was both anxious and angry. But she didn't dare to be as arrogant as she was just now, so she could only pull Jiyu Yanqing's arm and act aggrieved. I really didn't mean to. I just thought that the position had a good view. I didn't know it was Miss Mu's position. If I had known, I definitely wouldn't have sat there. I didn't know. I finally spoke. My voice was a bit hoarse, but it carried a strong chill. Miss Su, at the last family gathering, you clearly saw me sitting in the main seat. And at that time Jiyu Yangcheng also introduced to you that this is the main seat in my wife's family, and he has always been the one sitting there. You are now saying you don't know. Su Yuro's face turned pale, her eyes flickered, and she didn't dare to look at me. I have a bad memory, I forgot. Mu Jingyan took over the conversation. Her eyes turned cold again. I don't think you have a bad memory, but you are too thick-skinned. She turned to Jiyu Yangcheng. And the sense of oppression in her tone was even heavier. I'll ask you one more time. When you started your business, who gave you the pastor's supply chain resources? Who helped you get the most difficult big customers? Who took 50 million to help you get through when your company was about to go bankrupt? Jiyu Yanqing's face turned green and white, and his head was buried even lower. Yes, it was Wn Xing, it was the Mu family. Then what are you doing now? Mu Jingyan's voice suddenly increased. You took the Mu family's resources to get rich and forgot your roots, forgot who helped you stand up, forgot who you married. You dare to bring a mistress to a billion-dollar cooperation dinner, and let her take my sister's seat. Jiyu Yangcheng, do you think the Mu family is gone? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding guests were in an uproar. Although no one dared to speak loudly, the whispering was louder than before. Some people said, so it turns out that President Jiyu relies on the Mu family. Others said, "This is too ungrateful." Those words were like needles piercing Jiyu Yancheng's body. His ears were red, but he couldn't refute a word. Jiyu Yancheng was so anxious that he was about to cry. He grabbed Mu Jingyan's arm and wanted to beg for mercy. "Jingyan, I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I was just temporarily confused and blinded by Su Yuro. I will never dare to do it again. Don't be angry, our cooperation." Mu Jingyan suddenly his hand. Jiyu Yancheng didn't stand still, staggered back 2 steps, almost hitting the chair behind him. "You still have the face to talk to me about cooperation. Jiyu Yancheng, why don't you take a piss and look at yourself? Without the Mu family, what are you?" Seeing Jiyu Yanchen being scolded, Su Yuro wanted to speak up for him. But Mu Jingyan glared at him, stopping him before he could even open his mouth. Mu Jingyan's eyes were too frightening, as if they could see right through him. He was so scared that he quickly shut his mouth, shrunk back, and dared not say another word. Mu Jingyan lowered his head to look at the bottle of red wine in his hand, then looked up at Jiyu Yanchen, the coldness in his eyes growing stronger. "Jiyu Yanchen, you owe my Mu family, you owe Wanqing. And today I must make you pay some interest first." As he spoke, he slightly raised his wrist, and my heart tightened, knowing he was about to make a move. The surrounding guests also held their breath, their eyes fixed on them. No one dared to speak. And the only sounds in the entire private room were the light refracted by the crystal chandelier and Jiyu Yanchen's increasingly heavy breathing. I watched as Mu Jingyan raised his wrist, and with a whoosh, the bottle of red wine, which had not been opened for long, with its icy liquid, was splashed all over Jiyu Yanchen's face. The red wine flowed down his hair, wetting his carefully styled hair, and then flowed down his cheeks and neck, staining his expensive custom-made suit in a terrible mess. Jiyu Yanchen was completely stunned. Frozen in place, his eyes wide open, his face still covered in dripping red wine, looking like a drowned rat. The entire private room was instantly silent. You could hear a pin drop. And everyone was stunned. No one expected Mu Jingyan to actually make a move, and in such a direct way at such an important dinner. Su Yuro was also stunned, her mouth open for a long time without reacting, until the red wine dripped down Jiyu Yanchen's chin to the ground. Then she screamed and reached out to help Jiyu Yanchen wipe his face. "Yanchen, are you okay, Mr. Mu? How can you do this? Get away." Mu Jingyan snorted coldly, his eyes like knives stabbing at Su Yuro. "Do you have the right to speak here?" Su Yuro was startled by his roar, and the hand she had extended halfway froze in midair. She took 2 steps back in fright. Tears welled up in her eyes instantly, but she didn't dare to cry out. She could only look at Jiyu Yanchen with a wronged expression, as if she had suffered a great injustice. Only then did Jiyu Yanchen regain his senses. He wiped the red wine from his face, and the wine flowed down through his fingers. He looked at Mu Jingyan, both angry and scared, his voice trembling. "Mr. Mu, you're going too far. Even if I'm wrong, you can't treat me like this. Too far." Mu Jingyan sneered, took a step forward, and looked down at him condescendingly. "Let me tell you, Jiyu Yanchen, this is not even too far. You take my Mu family's money, live in the house my Mu family bought for you, drive the company my Mu family invested in, and then you dare to bully my sister and let a mistress ride on her head. Do you think it's too much for me to treat you like this?" His voice was not loud, but every word pierced the heart. Jiyu Yanchen was speechless, his face flushed red, like a boiled shrimp, both red and purple, extremely ugly. I stood beside Mu Jingyan, watching Jiyu Yanchen in such a disheveled state, feeling no sympathy whatsoever, only an unspeakable sense of satisfaction. Back then, he had showered me with sweet words, saying he would only love me for life and would never let me suffer. But now it all seemed like lying nonsense. The surrounding guests finally reacted, and some began to secretly take photos with their phones, while others whispered among themselves, "My God, President Mu is so protective. President Jiyu brought this on himself, daring to provoke Miss Mu as ungratefulness. He deserves to be splashed." Although the whispers were quiet, they clearly reached Jiyu Yanchen's ears. He lowered his head even further, his hands clenched into tight fists, his knuckles turning white, yet he didn't dare to utter a word in rebuttal. Mu Jingyan picked up a tissue from the table and handed it to me, her voice softening instantly. Wanxing, wipe your hands. Did it hurt when you pinched them earlier? I took the tissue and gently wiped my palms. I had pinched them so hard out of anger that my nails had left marks. Hearing his question, my heart warmed and my eyes welled up a little, but I smiled and shook my head. Brother, I'm fine. It's good you're okay. Mu Jingyan ruffled my hair, then turned to look at Jiyu Yanchen, her eyes instantly turning cold. Jiyu Yanchen, this glass of wine today is to remind you not to forget your place. Everything you have today is thanks to Wanxing, thanks to the Mu family. If it weren't for us, you'd still be selling things on the street. Jiyu Yanchen still didn't dare to speak, just kept saying Mom, with red wine all over his face, looking like a child who had done something wrong. But I knew he wasn't regretting it. He was afraid that Mu Jingyan would really cut off their cooperation and that everything he had worked so hard to get would be gone. Seeing Jiyu Yanchen so cowardly and Mu Jingyan protecting me so much, Su Yuro felt both angry and anxious. But she didn't dare to step forward again. She could only stand aside and sob softly, trying to gain some sympathy, but no one paid her any attention. Mu Jingyan glanced at her watch, her tone even colder. Jiyu Yanchen, I'll give you 10 minutes to take this woman away and apologize to Wanxing. If I still see her here in 10 minutes, our cooperation and all the resources of your company will be gone. Hearing this, Jiyu Yanchen trembled in fear and quickly looked up at Mu Jingyan. I'll take her away immediately. And I'll apologize and silence her. Please don't cancel the cooperation, I'm begging you. As he said this, he grabbed Su Yuro's hand and hurriedly walked out of the private room. Su Yuro still wanted to struggle, muttering, Yanchen, I'm not leaving, I did nothing wrong. But Jiyu Yanchen didn't care about her at all. Almost dragging her out, his disheveled appearance was a far cry from his arrogant demeanor in the main seat just now. Jiyu Yanchen dragged Su Yuro out of the private room with quite a commotion, even slamming the door shut with a bang, causing the decorative paintings on the wall to shake. I stood there, listening to the quarrel outside, and couldn't help but smirk. I knew without looking that these two were bound to have infighting. Mu Jingyan patted me on the back, signaling me to sit back in the main seat, and raised her chin at the waiter. Clean this up and bring a new bottle of red wine. The waiter nodded quickly and stepped forward with a rag and a new tablecloth, cautiously wiping the wine stains on the table. Afraid of being too slow and displeasing the big CEO, the surrounding guests were more relaxed now, and the discussion was much louder than before. Mr. Wang, who was sitting next to me, leaned over and said to Mu Jingyan in a low voice, President Mu, your protectiveness towards your sister is truly an eye-opener, but Jiyu Yanchen's actions are indeed unethical. He's using your family's resources and still dares to bully Miss Wanxing. He deserves it. Another Mr. Li chimed in. That's right, President Mu. When Jiyu Yanchen was begging us to cooperate with him, he always said thanks to the Mu family every day. Now that he's grown powerful, he's forgotten his roots. Such a person should be taught a lesson. These words all floated into my ears. And the grievance in my heart caused by Jiyu Yanchen's betrayal was completely replaced by this feeling of satisfaction. I picked up the juice that the waiter had just brought and took a sip. The cold liquid slid down my throat, making me feel refreshed. Mu Jingyan listened to the guest's words, only slightly curving the corners of her mouth, but her eyes did not relax. My sister, Mu Jingyan's sister, is not someone anyone can bully. If Jiyu Yanchen doesn't handle this matter well today, let alone cooperation, it's another matter whether his company can survive until next month. The threat in her words was more than obvious. The people around her dared not say more, but nodded in agreement, their eyes filled with fear. But no one wanted to offend the unapproachable president of the Mu Group because of Jiyu Yanchen. Just then, the private room door was pushed open a crack, and my brother's assistant, Xiao Chen, poked his head in and said softly to Mu Jingyan, President Mu, it's very noisy outside. President Jiyu and that Miss Su are arguing. Do you want me to handle it? Mu Jingyan frowned. What are they arguing about? Xiao Chen quickly replied, I just heard that Miss Su said that President Jiyu is useless and doesn't dare to go against you, so he's just venting his anger on her. President Jiyu said that Miss Su is ignorant. ruined his cooperation, and told her to leave quickly and stop causing trouble. They're arguing fiercely. Miss Sue even pushed President Gu and pulled his tie crooked. I almost laughed out loud after hearing this. Suyuro was tough at this moment, but unfortunately, she picked the wrong person to vent her anger on. Jiyu Yanchen's mind was full of fear of losing the collaboration with the pastor, so he had no intention to argue with her. Her fuss would only annoy Jiyu Yanchen more. Mu Jingyan sneered and said, "Ignore them, let them argue. Just keep an eye on them and don't let them come in and cause trouble again." Xiao Chen nodded in agreement and gently closed the door again. I turned to look at Mu Jingyan and couldn't help but say, "Brother, do you think Jiyu Yanchen will regret bringing Suyuro here now?" Mu Jingyan ruffled my hair, with a hint of helplessness in his eyes. "He doesn't regret bringing Suyuro here, he regrets not hiding it well enough and being caught in the act by us. Wanxing, don't think too highly of him. This kind of selfish person only cares about his own interests and wouldn't really regret it." I thought about it and realized it was true. Jiyu Yanchen had been using the Mu family's resources since he first got together with me. When he was pursuing me, he kept saying he loved me for who I was and that it had nothing to do with the Mu family. Now it seems like all lies. If I weren't Mu Jingyan's sister, he wouldn't have given me a second glance. A few minutes later, Xiao Chen came in again. This time with a much more relaxed expression. "President Mu, President Gu has sent Miss Sue away." He even slipped her a card in the hallway, telling her to find a place to stay first and not come back. Mu Jingyan raised an eyebrow, his eyes full of sarcasm. He's good at putting on a show, thinking he can just give her some money and get rid of her. But it's good too, saves him from being an eyesore here. As he said this, he looked at me, his tone softening. "Wanxing, are you feeling better now? If you don't want to stay here, we can leave now." I shook my head, picked up the juice on the table, and took another sip. "No, brother, they're the ones who should leave, since today's event was organized for the collaboration. I have to sit here and let everyone see who Jiyu Yanchen's lawfully wedded wife is and who the Mu family's daughter is." Mu Jingyan looked at me, a trace of relief flashing in his eyes. "Okay, brother will stay with you, but don't worry. With me here, no one will dare to wrong you again." Just then, the door of the private room was pushed open again. Jiyu Yanchen walked in with his head down. His suit was still wet, his hair was messy, and his tie was askew, making him look even more disheveled than before. He walked up to us and hesitated for a long time before raising his head, saying to me in a hoarse voice, "Wanxing, I'm sorry." Looking at him like this, I felt no emotion, and even found it a little ridiculous. Saying sorry now, where was he earlier? Jiyu Yanchen's "I'm sorry" was so light, like a feather, falling into my ears without a hint of sincerity. I looked at his feigned guilty expression. The fingers holding the juice glass gently tapped against the glass, and I said with a sneer, "Jiyu Yanchen, what are you apologizing to me for? Are you apologizing for me pestering my brother to give you supply chain resources? Or are you apologizing for me introducing the connections my father left behind to you? Or are you apologizing for secretly taking my own dowry to fill the hole when your company was on the verge of collapse?" With each sentence, I took a step forward. It wasn't until I stood in front of him, staring straight into his eyes, digging up all his ingratitude bit by bit and laying it bare for everyone to see, that Jiyu Yanchen's face instantly turned pale. His eyes darted around, not daring to look at me, and his hands clenched so tightly that his fingernails turned blue. "Wen-ching, please, don't say any more. Can't we talk about this at home? Let's talk about it at home." I felt like I had heard the biggest joke in the world, and my voice rose a few decibels. "Jiyu Yanchen, when you brought Suyuro to sit in my rightful place and let her humiliate me in public, why didn't you think about talking about it at home? When you took everything the Mu family gave you to please other women, why didn't you think about talking about it at home? Now you know you're scared, it's too late." The surrounding guests were in an uproar when they heard about the dowry filling the hole, and the discussions were even louder than before. My God. So when President Gu's company was about to collapse, it was Miss Wanxing who saved him with her dowry. Isn't that just awful, using his wife's dowry to start a business? And now he dares to cheat. That's right, if it weren't for the Mu family, if it weren't for Miss Wanxing, Would Jiyu Yangcheng be where he is today? He's simply a wolf in sheep's clothing. These discussions pricked at Jiyu Yangcheng like needles. His head was buried even lower, and his shoulders were trembling slightly. But he couldn't refute a single word, because everything I said was the truth. Mu Jingyan watched from the side, her eyes growing colder at this moment. She also spoke up to support me. Jiyu Yangcheng, do you think that just because I don't talk about these things, and Wanxing doesn't talk about them, others won't know? Back then, when you begged me for supply chain resources, you told me that you would treat Wanxing well in the future and never let her suffer. Have you forgotten those words? When you used Wanxing's dowry to turn things around, you told her that when the company got better, you would buy her the best diamond ring in the world. Have you forgotten those words too? She paused, took a step forward, and her powerful aura made Jiyu Yangcheng shrink back involuntarily. And what happened? Your company got better, you got money, and you started to forget your roots, started to find a mistress. Jiyu Yangcheng, put your hand on your heart and ask yourself, have you lived up to Wanxing? Have you lived up to the Mu family's help to you? Jiyu Yangcheng finally couldn't bear it any longer, suddenly raised his head, his eyes red. His voice with a sob, I know I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Late Qing dynasty, I was just confused for a moment, I was deceived by Su Yuro. He told me that he didn't care about my money, only about me as a person. I won't dare to do it again. Wanxing, please give me one more chance, okay? Can we live a good life together? I was deceived by him. I sneered, took out my phone from my bag, opened a photo and handed it to him. Take a look at this. This is a photo of you taking Su Yuro to the Maldives for vacation last weekend. You told me you went to another place to discuss business, and the seaside villa you bought for him has his name on the property certificate, which is drawn from our marital property. And this? I flipped through the photos and transfer records one by one. With each flip, Jiyu Yanqing's face paled a bit. In the end, his lips were trembling, and he couldn't say another word of being deceived. The people around looked at the evidence, and the discussions became more intense. Some people even took out their phones to take pictures secretly. Without even thinking, I knew that tomorrow the news of Jiyu Yanqing's ingratitude and cheating during the marriage would surely spread in the business world, and he would be completely discredited by then. I put my phone away and looked at Jiyu Yanchen, my tone icy without a trace of warmth. Jiyu Yanchen, you weren't deceived by Su Yuro. You were deceived by your own greed and selfishness. You thought you could do whatever you wanted by relying on Mu Jiu. Did you think I, Mu Wanxing, am someone you can bully as you please? Jiyu Yanchen slumped weakly against the chair behind him, his eyes vacant, muttering, no, it's not like that, Wanxing. Give me one more chance, just one more chance. I shook my head, without a shred of pity in my heart. Jiyu Yangcheng. From the moment you brought Su Yuro to this dinner and let her sit in my seat, you were already out of chances. Just then, Mu Jingyan's assistant, Xiao Chen, rushed in again, looking a bit troubled. President Mu, Miss Wanxing, the Jiyu family's matriarch is here. She's at the door saying she wants to see you. My heart skipped a beat. Jiyu Yanqing's mother, who is also my mother-in-law, is notoriously protective and unreasonable. Her coming here now must be to cause trouble for me on Jiyu Yanqing's behalf. Mu Jingyan frowned, her eyes turning cold. Let her in. I want to see what she has to say. The door of the private room was pushed open with a crash, and the Jiyu family's matriarch, leaning on a cane and wearing a purple-red silk cheongsam, stormed in aggressively. Two servants followed behind her, carrying insulated containers in their hands, clearly ready to defend her precious son. As soon as Madame Jiyu entered the door, her eyes swept over Jiyu Yanchen, who was disheveled and reeking of alcohol. Her face instantly darkened, and she tapped her cane on the ground twice, her voice sharp. Yanchen, what's wrong with you? Who made you like this? When Jiyu Yanchen saw his mother, he felt like he had found a lifeline and quickly stood up from the chair, walking towards her with a aggrieved expression. Mom, she. Before he could finish speaking, Madame Gu's eyes turned to me. Her gaze full of anger, pointing at me, she scolded, Mu Wanxing, it must be you, isn't it? You complained to your brother, and he bullied Yanchen. You troublemaker, you wouldn't cooperate with a perfectly good dinner party, and you had to cause trouble. Do you not want Yanchen to cooperate with pastor? I was so angry that I laughed. I had seen unreasonable people, but never one so unreasonable. It was clearly Jiyu Yanchen who brought his mistress to humiliate me. But now it had become me causing trouble. Before I could open my mouth, Mu Jinyang took a step forward and stood in front of me, his eyes so cold they could freeze. Madam Jiyu speaks of evidence. My sister did nothing wrong from beginning to end. It was your son who brought the mistress to the dinner party, took my sister's main seat, and let the mistress humiliate him in public. I only showed restraint by throwing a glass of red wine on him. Mistress? What mistress, Jiyu? The old madam craned her neck, looking utterly unreasonable. Yang Chen is young and promising. It's normal for him to have a few women who like him. Mu Wanqing, as his wife, you should be more generous and not dwell on these trivial matters all day long. You even let your brother bully my son. Do you deserve to be Gu's daughter-in-law? As soon as these words came out, the surrounding guests couldn't help but hiss, and the sound of whispering grew louder. President Wang, who was sitting closest to us, leaned over to President Li and whispered in his ear, "My God, this old Mrs. Jiyu is too unreasonable. Her son cheated and she's still right. This Miss Wanqing is really suffering." President Li also frowned and nodded. That's right. When the Jiyu family was poor, they relied on the Mu family for help. Now that they've developed, they're bullying their daughter like this. This ingratitude is exactly the same as her son. President Zhong also chimed in from the side. I think the Jiyu family is getting carried away, thinking they can do without the Mu family. If this gets out today, who would dare to cooperate with Jiyu Yangcheng? Who would want to deal with such an ungrateful family? Although these words were spoken softly, the private room was already quiet, and both old Madam Jiyu and Jiyu Yanchen were all ears, so every word floated into their ears. Jiyu Yanchen's face instantly changed from pale to liver-colored. He quickly tugged at old Madam Gu's arm and lowered his voice. Mom, please don't say anything. Today is for discussing cooperation. Don't let others laugh at us. What's there to laugh at? Old Madam Jiyu shook off his hand, her voice even louder. Our Jiyu family did nothing wrong. It's the Mu family who is bullying us. Mu Jingyan, you must apologize to my son today, or don't even think about this cooperation. Mu Jingyan seemed to have heard a huge joke, sneering. Apologize, old Madam Jiyu. I'm afraid you haven't figured out the situation. Now it's your Jiyu family begging to cooperate with Musha, not us begging you. Don't say I won't apologize. Even if I kick Jiyu Yanchen out of the private room today, you'll have to put up with it. He paused, his eyes sweeping over all the guests present, and said in a clear and powerful voice, everyone here has seen it today. It's not that I, Mu Jin, am being unreasonable, it's that the Jiyu family is ungrateful first, and bullies my sister later. I don't think there's any need to discuss this cooperation today. My Mu group wouldn't cooperate with a company that doesn't even understand basic morality. As soon as he said this, the guests discussed it even more fiercely, and some even took out their phones and pretended to check the time, but were actually secretly filming videos. Jiyu Yanchen, seeing this situation, was anxious and sweating profusely, and pulled old Madam Gu's hand and dragged her out. Mom, stop it. If you keep making trouble, my company will be finished. Old Madam Jiyu still wanted to struggle, shouting in her mouth, I'm not making trouble, they are the ones bullying people. Yanchen, let go of me, I have to reason with them today. How could Jiyu Yanchen dare to let her continue making a scene? He practically dragged the old Madam Jiyu towards the door. The old Madam Gu's walking stick fell to the ground, and the hem of her cheongsam was pulled askew, making her look extremely disheveled. The surrounding guests watched the backs of the mother and son and couldn't help but laugh. The discussions became even more unrestrained. Haha, the Jiyu family has truly lost all face. The old one is unreasonable, and the young one is ungrateful. I deserve to see Jiyu Yanchen's company fail sooner or later. I picked up the juice on the table and took another sip, feeling extremely happy as I watched Jiyu Yanchen's disheveled figure. Jiyu Yanchen, old Madam Jiyu, everything you owe me. Everything you owe the Mu family. From today onwards, I will take it all back bit by bit. Mu Jingyan patted my shoulder, her tone carrying a bit of comfort. Don't bother with them, they're not worth it. Next, it's time to settle the score between us and Jiyu Yanchen. I nodded, my eyes firm. Yes. It's time to settle the score. Jiyu Yanchen had just dragged old Mrs. Jiyu to the entrance of the private room when he heard old Mrs. Gu's sharp cry suddenly rise. Immediately after, there was a smack sound. As if something had fallen to the ground. Without looking, he knew that old Mrs. Jiyu had broken free from Jiyu Yanchen and was making a scene again. Mu Jingyan and I exchanged a glance and didn't say anything, just holding our cups and waiting to see what tricks old Mrs. Jiyu was going to play next. The surrounding guests also stopped their chopsticks and looked towards the door with expressions of watching a show. This kind of wealthy family drama isn't something you can see every day, sure enough. In a few seconds, the private room door was kicked open with a bang, and old Mrs. Jiyu rushed in with disheveled hair and a crooked cheongsam collar, still clutching the crutch that had fallen on the ground. Pointing at me, she cursed Mu Wanqing, a barren jinx, who has been married into our Jiyu family for 3 years and can't even give birth to a child. Now she dares to instigate your brother to bully my son. Our Jiyu family was truly blind to marry such a troublemaker. These words were so vicious and harsh that I almost dropped the juice glass in my hand. I haven't had a child in 3 years, and it was Jiyu Yanchen who said that his career was just starting and told me not to rush, saying that we would prepare for pregnancy after the company stabilized. Now it has become my fault. And she even calls me a jinx. Before I could speak, Mu Jingyan slammed her cup on the table, her eyes so cold they could freeze people. Old Mrs. Jiyu, watch your words. It was Jiyu Yanchen himself who suggested that my sister not have children. Why didn't you say anything when he begged my sister to focus on his career? Now you're throwing mud at my sister. Do you have any shame? Old Mrs. Jiyu was choked by Mu Jingyan's retort, but she quickly retorted with her neck stiff. Even if Yanchen said that, it is unfilial for a woman not to have children. We, the Jiyu family, marry a wife to carry on the family line. She doesn't even have this use. So what face does she have to stay here? Mu Jingyan sneered and took out a stack of documents from her briefcase, slamming them on the table. Take a look for yourself. This is the IOU for 20 million that Jiyu Yanchen borrowed from my mother 3 years ago when he was short of money to start his business. His signature is on it. This is the set of jade jewelry worth 5 million that my sister bought you for your birthday last year. The invoice is still here. And this. Last month you said you wanted to travel abroad, but Jiyu Yanchen didn't have money, so my sister gave you 1 million to have a good time. He pointed at the documents, his voice louder with each sentence. Did your Jiyu family marry my sister to carry on the family line or for the Mu family's money? Don't you know in your heart, if it weren't for my sister's soft heart to marry Jiyu Yanchen and help your Jiyu family through the difficulties, you would still be living in rented houses. Now that you've grown strong, you're starting to dislike my sister. Looking at the documents on the table, old Mrs. Gu's face alternated between green and white, her fingers clenched around her cane, her knuckles turning white. But she couldn't say a word. Those things were all true, and he couldn't refute them at all. Jiyu Yanchen also hurried over, grabbing old Mrs. Gu's arm, almost crying in anxiety. Mom, don't say any more. Those documents are all true. If we make any more trouble, forget about the cooperation. We'll have to pay back the money we owe the Mu family. What will we use to pay it back? What will we use to repay the Jiyu family? Old Mrs. Jiyu shook off Jiyu Yanchen's hand, still wanting to hold on. That money was given willingly. Mu Wanqing begged to marry you and that's why they gave us more money. Why should we return voluntarily given money? I finally couldn't help but speak, my voice calm but with a strong chill. Old Mrs. Jiyu. Last year you said the jade jewelry was too small and asked me to buy you a bigger one. When I didn't buy it you went around telling people I was unfilial. Last month, you came back from your trip saying that foreign health products were good, and asked me to buy 100,000 yuan worth for you. I bought them, and you immediately told your neighbor that I was stupid and rich. Have you forgotten these things? I paused, my gaze sweeping over the guests present, and said clearly, I, Mu Wanqing, married Jiyu Yanchen because I was blind and chose the wrong person. I didn't beg to marry into your Jiyu family to spend money, it was for Jiyu Yanchen's sake. not something to be taken for granted. Now you treat me like this and still want to renege on the money owed to the Mu family. Dream on. The surrounding guests couldn't help but discuss after hearing this. My God, this old Mrs. Gu is too much. She took someone else's money and then spoke ill of them behind their back. That's right. Miss Wanshing is too wronged. She treated them wholeheartedly, but this is what she got in return from the Gu family. This is really the height of ingratitude. Who would dare to deal with them in the future? These voices of discussion were like needles pricking old Mrs. Gu. Her face turned from red to purple and then from purple to white. Finally, she couldn't hold on any longer. Her legs went weak, and she almost fell to the ground. Jiu Yanchen quickly helped her up. His eyes almost filled with tears. Mom, stop making trouble, or our family will really be finished. Old Mrs. Gu looked at the contemptuous gazes of the people around her, and at the documents on the table that she couldn't refute. Finally, she couldn't hold on any longer and burst into tears, crying and scolding. Yanchen, Mom is doing this for your own good. The Mu family is bullying us too much. We can't be so useless. Mom, now is not the time to talk about this. Jiu Yanchen quickly covered his mouth, fearing he would say something that would make things worse, and then repeatedly bowed to Mu Jinyang and me, saying, I'm sorry, Wan Xin, I'm sorry. My mother is old and confused. Please don't take it to heart. I'll take her away now and never bother you again. With that, he half supported and half carried the old Mrs. Gu towards the door. Old Mrs. Gu was still sobbing, but she didn't dare to shout loudly anymore. Watching the embarrassed backs of the mother and son as they left, the whispering in the private room gradually subsided. The guests looked at me with a mixture of sympathy and admiration. Sympathizing with my misfortune in love and admiring my current calmness and toughness, Mu Jinyang picked up the documents on the table, put them back in his briefcase, and then patted me on the shoulder, his tone tinged with heartache and regret. You've been wronged, but don't worry, I'll make them pay the price next. I shook my head, a cold smile on my lips. I'm not wronged, it's just the beginning. I'll get back everything Jiu Yanchen owes me, little by little. Jiu Yanchen had only dragged old Mrs. Gu away for 2 minutes when the atmosphere in the private room had not completely calmed down. The guests were still chatting in 2s and 3s, and the topic was all about the Gu family's fast just now. President Wang walked up to Mu Jingyan with a wine glass and said in a low voice, President Mu, your words just now were so satisfying. This mother and son of the Gu family are shameless. They should have been taught a lesson long ago. President Li also echoed, that's right. When Jiu Yanchen begged our company to supply him, he kept saying that for President Mu's sake, we should take care of him. Now it's fine. He even dares to bully Miss Mu. We shouldn't leave him any room. Mu Jingyan just nodded lightly, her eyes falling on me, her gaze tinged with worry. Wan Xin, if you feel tired, go to the lounge next door and sit for a while. I'll handle things here. I shook my head, picked up the warm water on the table and took a sip, my voice calm. No need, I'm fine. What needs to be faced will eventually be faced. In fact, I no longer feel the previous grievances in my heart, only a kind of relief that it's finally coming to an end. Jiu Yanchen owes the Mu family. Today, the reckoning will finally begin. Just then, the door of the private room was pushed open with a bang, and Jiu Yanchen ran in breathlessly, his hair even more disheveled than before. The wine stains on his suit were not yet dry, his collar was open, and his forehead was covered with sweat. It was obvious that he was extremely anxious. He rushed to Mu Jingyan and wanted to kneel down with a thud. Mu Jingyan was quick to react and reached out to stop him. What are you doing? Jiu Yanchen's knees didn't touch the ground. Instead, he grabbed Mu Jingyan's arm, his voice pleading with a sob. Jingyan, I beg you, please don't cancel the cooperation. I know I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. I promise I'll treat Wan Xin well from now on and never associate with Su Yuro again. Please, just give me one more chance, okay? His voice was loud and urgent, and everyone in the private room fell silent, their eyes focused on him. Some secretly took out their phones to record, while others whispered, My God, President Gu is so desperate he's about to kneel. If he loses the Mu family's cooperation, his company won't last long, right? He brought it on himself. It's too late to regret it now. Mu Jingyan frowned and forcefully his hand. Jiyu Yanchen, don't you think it's too late to say all this now, when you brought Su Yuro and had her sit in Wan Xin's seat, humiliating her in public? Didn't you think about today, when you used the Mu family's money to buy a house and vacation for your mistress? Didn't you think about today? Jiyu Yanchen staggered back 2 steps after being pushed away, but quickly stepped forward again, trying to grab my hand. Wan Xin, I know I'm sorry. Can you please beg your brother for me? We're husband and wife. You can't just watch my company go bankrupt. As long as you help me, I'll listen to you from now on and never make you angry again. I took a step back, avoiding his hand, my eyes as cold as ice. Husband and wife. Jiyu Yanchen, from the moment you brought Su Yuro to this dinner and had her sit in my place of honor, we were no longer husband and wife. Whether your company goes bankrupt or not has nothing to do with me. Jiyu Yanchen looked at my cold eyes, and the color drained from his face instantly. He opened his mouth, wanting to say something more, but Mu Jingyan spoke first, her voice clear and strong, reaching every corner of the private room. Everyone, I have an announcement to make here today. From this moment on, the Mu Group officially terminates all cooperation with Jiyu Yanchen's Shengsha Technology Company, including all signed letters of intent and ongoing projects. As soon as these words were spoken, the entire private room erupted in an uproar. My God! The Mu family terminated cooperation with President Gu's company. It's completely over now, right? I heard that half of his company's business relies on the Mu family. That's right, without the Mu family's supply chain and resources, his company won't last 3 months. After hearing this, Jiyu Yanchen seemed to have all his strength drained away, slumped back in his chair, his eyes hollow, muttering, "No, we can't terminate the cooperation. My company has hundreds of employees to support. I can't go bankrupt." Mu Jingyan looked at him coldly, without a trace of sympathy for Jiyu Yanchen. "This is the path you chose. You dare to cheat on my sister. You have to bear the consequences. You can't afford this price." He paused, his gaze sweeping over all the guests present, as if warning them, and also as if announcing, "I, Mu Jingyan, am making a statement here. From now on, if anyone dares to bully my Mu Wanqing, no matter who he is, no matter how capable he is, my Mu Group will not let him go. Today, consider this a reminder to everyone. Don't be like Jiyu Yanchen, ungrateful, and end up with nothing." The surrounding guests nodded in agreement, with a hint of apprehension in their eyes. But no one wanted to offend Mu Group, this sister-protecting maniac, over a trivial matter. CEO Mo quickly spoke up. "President Mu is right. President Jiyu really did wrong in this matter. It's right for you to terminate the cooperation. Our company will definitely get along well with Miss Wanqing in the future, and we would never dare to be negligent in the slightest." Other CEOs also followed suit, expressing their views one after another. For a time, the private room was full of echoes, with only Jiyu Yanchen alone, like an abandoned child, slumped in his chair, his face pale, unable to say a word. I looked at Jiyu Yanchen's disheveled appearance, without a trace of pity in my heart. This was all his own doing. When he betrayed me, why didn't he think there would be today? When he took the resources of my Mu family to please his mistress, why didn't he think there would be today? Mu Jingyan glanced at her watch and said to the surrounding guests, "Today's dinner party has been spoiled by the Jiyu family's matter. I apologize to everyone here. The pastor will arrange for someone to follow up on the cooperation matters with everyone. Let's end here today." The guests got up one after another to say goodbye. When they left, they all couldn't help but look at Jiyu Yanchen with sympathy. Some people whispered to me, "Miss Wanqing, don't be too sad. This kind of man is not worth it." I smiled and thanked them. But in my heart there was only a kind of pleasure of revenge. When the guests were almost gone, only me, Mu Jingyan, and Jiyu Yanchen, who was slumped in his chair, were left in the private room. Mu Jingyan walked to my side and said softly, "Wanqing, next, it's time to deal with your and Jiyu Yanchen's matter. What do you want to do?" I looked at Jiyu Yanchen, a sneer creeping across my lips. "What else can I do? Of course, it's a divorce, but before the divorce, I have to get back everything that belongs to me." Ji Yu Yang really seemed to have heard something terrible, and he suddenly raised his head with horror in his eyes. Wenxing, you can't divorce me. If we divorce, my company will be finished. Please, give me another chance, okay? I ignored him and took out a document from my bag and placed it in front of him. It was a divorce agreement I had prepared long ago. The divorce agreement slapped onto the table in front of Ji Yu Yang. The 5 bold characters of divorce agreement on the cover particularly glaring. Ji Yu Yanqing's gaze had just fallen on it when his body suddenly stiffened, as if someone had poured a bucket of ice water over him, instantly awakening him from his previous daze. He reached out to take the agreement. But as soon as his fingers touched the edge of the paper, he retracted as if he had been burned. When he looked up at me, his eyes were full of disbelief, and his voice trembled. Wenxing, you were prepared for this long ago. I leaned back in my chair, crossed my arms, and spoke without any warmth. Otherwise, wait for you to transfer all of the Mu family's money to Su Yu Ru's name before mentioning divorce to me. Ji Yu Yang. Although I, Mu Wanqing, was blind to marry the wrong person, I'm not stupid enough to be taken advantage of. As I said that, I also pushed over a stack of documents that I had placed next to me, which included bank transfer records, real estate registration information, and consumption receipts for luxury goods he bought for Su Yu Ru. This is the money you spent on Su Yu Ru with our joint property over the past 2 years, a seaside villa worth 12 million, 2 diamond necklaces, 3 watches, adding up to about 5 million, and the resort costs for the Maldives and Paris, totaling about 2 million. Half of this money is mine, and you have to pay it back. Ji Yu Yanqing's face grew paler and paler as he looked at it. His fingers clenched tightly on the tablecloth, his knuckles turning blue. Those were what I willingly gave to you, Ru. It has nothing to do with you. What about the joint property of husband and wife? I earn money to support the family. I can spend it on whoever I want. Earn money to support the family. I seemed to have heard the biggest joke in the world, suddenly stood up, pointed at his nose and scolded. The money you earned. Ji Yu Yanchen, put your hand on your heart and tell me, who provided the initial capital for your company, who helped you secure your first major project, when your company was on the verge of bankruptcy, who used their dowry to fill the hole? Without the Mu family, you would still be selling pirated software on the street. Do you have the right to say you're earning a living? These words whipped at Ji Yu Yanchen, his head sinking lower and lower as he muttered, But I've also contributed a lot to the company. Mu Jingyan sneered beside him, slapping a company equity document on the table. Your so-called contribution is taking the resources provided by the Mu family, occupying 60% of the company's shares. Wanqing initially transferred 30% of his shares to you to support you, and this is how you repay him. He pointed at the terms on the document, his voice growing colder. According to your prenuptial agreement, the company is your joint marital property, and Wanqing's contribution to the company accounts for more than 70%. Now that you're divorcing, Wanqing will not only take back the shares that belong to him, but also divide all the things you bought for your mistress with the joint property, including that Seaview house and the Porsche in your name. All of these must be converted into cash for Wanqing. Ji Yu Yanchen, upon hearing about the division of property and the return of shares, reacted like a cat whose tail had been stepped on, suddenly raising his head, his eyes bloodshot. No, that's my company, my car. I can't give it to Wanqing. Can't we not get divorced? I'll kick Su Euro out, and I'll never contact her again. Can't we live a good life like we used to? I picked up the divorce agreement, turned to the last page where the signature was, and handed him a pen. Ji Yu Yanchen, when you betrayed me, you should have known that we could never go back to the way we were before. Sign it. Don't force me to go through legal procedures. If it really comes to that, you'll not only have to divide my property, but also compensate me for emotional distress due to your extramarital affair. You'll only be worse off then. Ji Yu Yanchen looked at the pen I handed him, and then at the property certificate on the table, his hand trembling. But he hesitated to take it. He knew that once he signed, he would not only lose me, but also lose most of the company's shares, lose everything he had accumulated over the years relying on the Mu family. How could he be willing? Wanqing, I beg you. He suddenly knelt in front of me, grabbing my pant leg with both hands. Tears mixed with the red wine he hadn't wiped clean from his face flowing down. Give me another chance, just one chance, and I promise I'll change. I'll never look for Suyuro again. I'll live a good life with you. And I'll manage the company well, okay? The surrounding air instantly quieted down, with only Ji-Yu Yencheng's suppressed sobs. In the past, seeing him like this, I would definitely feel soft-hearted and sorry for him. But now I only feel disgusted. A man who betrayed me and used my family's money to please his mistress, now pretends to be pitiful and begs for forgiveness. It's too late. I forcefully shook off his hand, took a step back, and said in a cold tone, Ji-Yu Yencheng, don't pull this on me. You are kneeling here now not because you love me, but because you are afraid of losing everything you have now. I'm telling you it's useless. I'm getting this divorce today, and I must get back what belongs to me. Mo Jingyan stepped forward and stood between me and Ji-Yu Yencheng, her eyes so cold they could freeze. Ji-Yu Yencheng, don't force us to act. Either sign now and part ways peacefully, or we'll go directly to court. You'll only lose even more miserably then. The choice is yours. Ji-Yu Yencheng knelt on the ground, looking at my resolute eyes and then at Mu Jingyan's cold expression. Knowing that he had no way out, he reached out tremblingly, picked up the pen on the table, his fingers shaking uncontrollably from the effort. The pen hovered over the signature line for a long time before slowly writing the 3 characters Ji-Yu Yencheng. Those 3 characters were written crookedly, as if he had used all his strength. After signing, he threw the pen away. Slumped on the ground, staring blankly at the ceiling, muttering, it's over, it's all over. I picked up the signed divorce agreement and looked at it carefully, confirming that the signature was correct, then folded it and put it in my bag, looking at Ji-Yu Yencheng, who was slumped on the ground. I felt no ripples in my heart, only a sense of relief. Mu Jingyan patted my shoulder, her voice filled with a bit of relief. Okay, everything is in the past. Next. I'll have the lawyer handle the follow-up property division. You don't have to worry about it anymore. I nodded. The last bit of attachment in my eyes towards Ji-Yu Yencheng disappeared. Ji-Yu Yencheng, from now on, we owe each other nothing. I wish you well. As I got into my brother's car, the neon lights outside the window flickered past, leaving behind Ji-Yu Yencheng's villa, which once made me feel like home. I didn't feel any reluctance, only a sense of relief. As if I had unloaded 1,000 pounds of burden, Mu Jingyan sat next to me, telling the driver to start the car while calling her assistant, Xiao Chen, her voice full of coldness. Freeze the sea view house that Ji-Yu Yencheng bought for Suyuro, and investigate all the money he transferred to Suyuro. Recover everything that can be recovered. Also, isn't Suyuro working at Fashion Media? Say hello to their boss. Keeping someone with such bad character will only ruin the company's reputation. Hearing this, I picked up the warm water in the car and took a sip, feeling extremely happy in my heart. Doesn't Suyuro like to take advantage of Ji-Yu Yencheng? Now that Ji-Yu Yencheng can't even protect himself, I want to see how long she can be smug without Ji-Yu Yencheng as her backer. Xiao Chen quickly agreed on the phone. Okay, President Mu, I'll take care of it right away. Oh, right, President Mu, I just saw Suyuro at the hotel entrance. He's still waiting there for Ji-Yu Yencheng. Saying he wants to ask Ji-Yu Yencheng why he suddenly kicked him out, Mu Jingyan sneered, let him wait a little longer. He'll be crying soon. After saying that, she hung up the phone, turned to look at me, and her tone softened a little. WN Ching, take a good rest during this time. Leave the company's affairs and Ji-Yu Yencheng's mess to me. You don't have to worry about it. I nodded, leaning back in the chair and looking at the night view outside the window. I used to think that after marrying Ji-Yu Yencheng, my life should revolve around him and the family. Now I realize that getting rid of him is the real beginning of my life. About half an hour later, Xiao Chen called again, this time with a hint of schadenfreude in his tone. President Mu, Miss WN Ching. Ji-Yu Yencheng just came out of the hotel. Suyuro went up to stop him, but Ji-Yu Yencheng pushed him away hard and scolded him. I sat up a little straighter and asked Xiao Chen what exactly happened. Xiao Chen quickly said, I was hiding nearby watching. Suyuro grabbed Ji-Yu Yencheng's arm and asked him why he kicked me out. Ji-Yu Yencheng shook him off and shouted, it's all your fault. if you hadn't insisted on making trouble at the dinner, would I have lost the tomb cooperation? Would WN Ching have forced me to divorce? You're just a jinx. Get out of here and don't let me see you again. And then, I pressed, the feeling of satisfaction in my heart growing stronger and stronger. Then Su Yu-ru cried, saying that Jiyu Yangcheng was heartless, that he was the one who pursued him in the beginning, and now he's blaming him for what happened. Jiyu Yangcheng got impatient and took out a card from his wallet and threw it in his face, saying, "There's 50,000 yuan in here, enough for you to use for a while. Don't contact me again." Then he drove away, leaving Su Yu-ru alone on the side of the road crying. Xiao Chen couldn't help but laugh as he spoke. Su Yu-ru deserves it, he was so arrogant at the beginning. And now he's been dumped. Mu Jingyan couldn't help but curl the corners of her mouth after hearing this. Jiyu Yangcheng is good at shirking responsibility, especially at passing the buck to others beforehand. But that's good, so Su Yu-ru won't pester him and cause us trouble. I leaned back in the chair, remembering how Su Yu-ru showed off his diamond necklace at the dinner party to mock me, and then thinking about his current embarrassing appearance of being thrown on the side of the road by Jiyu Yangcheng with 50,000 yuan. I couldn't help but laugh. This is the end for him trying so hard to be a mistress. He tried to steal a chicken only to lose the rice used to bait it, and ended up with nothing. After another hour or so, Xiao Chen called again, this time with the news of Su Yu-ru's dismissal. "President Mu, I've spoken to the boss of fashion media. He said he's been displeased with Su Yu-ru for a long time, relying on her relationship with Jiyu Yangchen to act tyrannically in the company and steal colleagues' clients. He just had HR issue Su Yu-ru a termination notice, and she'll be going through the departure procedures tomorrow." "Well done." Mu Jingyang nodded in satisfaction. "Keep an eye on her. Don't let her go looking for Jiyu Yangchen again, and don't let her harass WN Xing." Xiao Chen responded and hung up the phone. I looked at Mu Jingyang, my heart full of gratitude. "Brother, thank you. If it weren't for him, I might still be suffering from Jiyu Yangchen's betrayal, still being bullied by Su Yu-ru and old Mrs. Jiyu, and wouldn't have been able to get this grievance out of my system so quickly." Mu Jingyang ruffled my hair, his eyes full of affection. "Why are you being so polite with your brother? You're my only sister. Who else would I protect if not you? Besides, Jiyu Yangchen and Su Yu-ru were in the wrong to begin with. This is the retribution they deserve." The car soon arrived downstairs at my house. This was a house I bought myself before I got married. I rarely came back after the wedding, but now it has become the most comforting place for me. Mu Jingyang sent me to the door and reminded me, "Tomorrow I'll have the lawyer take the divorce agreement for notarization, and the property division will be handled as soon as possible. If you don't want to see Jiyu Yangchen, just tell me, and I'll have the lawyer liaise with him." I nodded in agreement, watched Mu Jingyang's car disappear into the night, and then pushed the door open and walked into the house. Everything in the house was still familiar to me, without Jiyu Yangchen's things, without those upsetting memories. Only full of peace of mind. I walked to the balcony, looked at the traffic below, took out my phone, found the photos I had saved of Su Yu-ru showing off her necklace at the dinner party, and remembered Xiao Chen's description of her being dumped on the roadside by Jiyu Yangchen, crying and being fired by the company. I couldn't help but delete the photos. This kind of person doesn't deserve to be left in my phone. Just then, my phone suddenly rang. It was an unfamiliar number. I hesitated for a moment and answered it. Su Yu-ru's sobbing voice came from the other end of the phone. "Mu WN Ching, it's all your fault. If it weren't for you, Yang Chen wouldn't have broken up with me, and I wouldn't have been fired by the company." "You bitch," I sneered, my tone icy. "Su Yu-ru, you became a mistress yourself, destroyed other people's families. Being dumped and fired is all your own doing. What does it have to do with me? I advise you not to bother me again, or I'll make sure you can't even stay in this city." Not many days after Su Yu-ru's incident, Xiao Chen reported the latest situation of Jiyu Yangchen's company to my brother. Since the termination of cooperation, Jiyu Yangchen's Shengsha technology has been like a kite with a broken string, plummeting all the way down. Several major clients who had previously cooperated with him heard that he was ungrateful and bullied me, and was also blacklisted by Pastor Mu. fearing being implicated. They terminated their cooperation one after another. The supply chain was also cut off. The low-priced raw materials he used to get through the Mu family's connections were now unavailable. Even if someone was willing to supply him, the price had tripled, which he simply couldn't afford. Once the capital chain broke, the company's employees began to panic. Those with ability had secretly found new jobs long ago, and half of them left in a few days. The remaining employees couldn't get their salaries and blocked the company's entrance every day, demanding an explanation. Some even went directly to labor arbitration to sue him. Jiyu Yanchen went everywhere looking for people to borrow money to tide him over. But those bosses who used to call him brother either said they had no money or simply didn't answer his calls. Everyone knew that offending Mu Jingyan was like making trouble for themselves. When I heard this news, I was video chatting with my mother at home. My mother was still worried that I would be sad about the divorce. I smiled and said to her, "Mom, I'm not sad at all. On the contrary, I feel relieved. Jiyu Yanchen's situation today is all his own fault and has nothing to do with me." My mother was relieved and urged me, "It's good that you can think that way. Don't be foolishly sacrificing for others in the future, and think more about yourself. Your brother has already told me that after you've rested enough, go to the Mu family to help them. The two of you should live a good life together in the future." After hanging up the video, I was just about to get up and make some coffee when the doorbell suddenly rang. I looked through the peephole and frowned instantly. Standing outside the door was Jiyu Yanchen, wearing a faded old shirt, his hair disheveled, with sunken eyes and stubble around his chin. Compared to the suited and booted, high-spirited President Jiyu from before, he looked like a different person altogether. I hesitated for a moment, but still opened the door, my tone indifferent. "What are you doing here?" Jiyu Yanchen's eyes lit up when he saw me, and he quickly moved closer, holding a crumpled plastic bag in his hand containing a few apples that looked like they were bought from a roadside stall. "Wanshin, I came to see you. These are the apples you used to love the most. I specially bought them at the supermarket." As he spoke, he tried to hand me the apples, but I took a step back and didn't take them. I used to like eating apples because he said they were good for my health, but now hearing those words felt ironic. When he bought Suyuro an 8 million yuan necklace, why didn't he think about buying me a few apples? "Get to the point, don't waste my time." I leaned against the doorframe, not letting him in. Jiyu Yanchen's hand froze in midair, and the smile on his face faded. He sighed, and his voice trembled. "Wanshin, I know I was wrong. The company went bankrupt. I have nothing now. I've thought a lot about things these past few days. I was wrong before. I was bewitched. I'm sorry. Can you give me another chance? How about we remarry? I promise I'll treat you well in the future and never make you angry again." As he spoke, his eyes turned red, and he reached out to take my hand, but I quickly dodged. Looking at his pitiful appearance, I felt no sympathy, only a sense of "if only you knew then what you know now" coldness. "Jiyu Yanchen, do you think I'm stupid?" I said with a cold smile. "Your company went bankrupt, and you're at your wit's end, so you remember how good I am and want to remarry me. When you took my family's money to buy houses and jewelry for Suyuro, why didn't you think about today? When you humiliated me at the billion-dollar dinner, why didn't you think I would give you a chance?" Jiyu Yanchen lowered his head at my words, his voice even softer. "I know I was a bastard before, but I've really changed now, Wanshin. We were a couple after all. You can't just watch me be driven to a dead end, can you? As long as you're willing to help me, I'm willing to do anything." "A couple," I emphasized. "You're mentioning being a couple to me. When you and Suyuro were vacationing in the Maldives, being intimate with her in the ocean view room, why didn't you think about us being a couple?" "Jiyu Yanchen, the reason you're saying all this now isn't because you still love me. It's because you're at your wit's end and want to use me as a lifeline. I'm telling you, it's impossible at this moment." The community security guard happened to be patrolling and saw Jiyu Yancheng standing at my door. Thinking he was a bad guy, he quickly came over and asked, "Miss Mu, who is this person? Do you want me to drive him away?" Jiyu Yancheng heard this and quickly grabbed my arm, almost crying in desperation. "Wanxing, don't drive me away. I really know I was wrong. Please give me one more chance." Just one. I forcefully shook off his hand and said to the security guard, Uncle Jong. Please ask him to leave and don't let him enter this community again. Uncle Jong quickly agreed and stepped forward to block Jiyu Yang Cheng. Sir, please leave here and don't harass Miss Mu. Jiyu Yang Cheng still wanted to struggle, shouting, Wanshing, I won't leave, just listen to me for a few words. But Uncle Jong was strong and pulled him straight out. The plastic bag in Jiyu Yancheng's hand fell to the ground, and apples rolled all over, as disheveled as he was. I looked at his back as he was dragged away by the security guard, and at the scattered apples on the ground, without the slightest ripple in my heart. Jiyu Yang Cheng, this is all your own doing. How you treated me back then, you should bear the consequences now. A few days after Jiyu Yang Cheng was taken away by the security guard, my brother's lawyer sent over the property division results. The Sea View house under Jiyu Yancheng's name was transferred to my name. And most of the money he transferred to Su Euro was recovered, adding the 70% of the company's shares and the cash converted from the Porsche. The total amounted to about 30 million. The lawyer also said that Jiyu Yang Cheng voluntarily compensated me an additional 2 million for mental distress due to infidelity during the marriage, and the money had already been transferred to my card. Holding this property division agreement, I felt no emotion. Only that it was like settling a troublesome matter that should have ended long ago. I entrusted the Sea View house to an agency for rent, and the monthly rent was enough for me to live comfortably. As for the company's shares, after discussing with my brother, I decided to transfer 40% of them to the core team of the Mu Group. I wasn't very interested in running the company, so I might as well distribute the shares to the people who actually do the work. Which would also help my brother reduce some pressure. After dealing with these matters, I went to the Mu Group to help my brother as I had agreed with my mother before. My brother specially arranged a position for me as a brand operations director. I didn't have to clock in and out. And I was mainly responsible for coordinating cooperation projects with some high-end brands. At first, I was a little worried that I wouldn't be able to do well, but I didn't expect to get started quite smoothly. When I used to attend various business events with Jiyu Yang Cheng, I had learned a lot by observation. With the help of my brother and the team, I secured a cooperation with an international luxury brand in the first month and signed a 50 million contract. After signing the contract that day, the team specially ordered a cake to celebrate. My brother, rarely ever on time, even managed to get off work on time and took me and my mom out to dinner. At the dinner table, my mom kept smiling at me, constantly piling food onto my plate. Wanshin, Mom knew you were a capable child. You were wronged in the Jiyu family before, but now it's good. You're doing what you love, and you have me and your brother by your side, which is better than anything. My brother also smiled and said, That's right, Wanshin. The project you negotiated this time, even the board of directors praised your vision. If you want to strike out on your own in the future, your brother will invest in you. The daughters of our Mu family don't need to be subservient to others. I took a bite of sweet and sour pork ribs, feeling warm inside. This is what a home should be like, without calculations, without grievances, only the care and support of family members. I used to think that marrying Jiyu Yanchen would bring happiness, but now I understand that true happiness is not given by others, but earned by oneself, having family members who love and care for you, and being able to do what you love. During dinner, my brother's assistant, Xiao Chen, suddenly sent a message with a photo attached. In the photo, Jiyu Yanchen was wearing a tattered delivery uniform, riding an old electric bike on the side of the road delivering food to customers, his face full of exhaustion. He was a far cry from the spirited President Jiyu he used to be. Xiao Chen also said in the message that after Jiyu Yanchen's company went bankrupt, he was heavily in debt and was being chased around by creditors. Su Euro had also disappeared long ago. He had no choice but to make a living by delivering food, sometimes not even eating 3 meals a day. I looked at the photo, feeling no sympathy, and simply replied, Xiao Chen, I understand, you don't need to tell me about him anymore. Jiyu Yanchen's situation today is entirely the path he chose for himself. It has nothing to do with me. I don't need to waste any more time and energy on him. From then on, my life became smoother and smoother. During the day, I worked on projects with the team at the company, and in the evening, I either cooked and took walks with my mom, or went to the movies and shopping with friends. On weekends, I would go hiking and camping in the suburbs with my brother. I also picked up painting, which I used to love, and enrolled in an oil painting class, attending twice a week. The paintings I created were even recommended by the teacher to participate in the city's art exhibition. Although I didn't win an award, it gave me a great sense of accomplishment. Once, when I was shopping with a friend, I accidentally ran into Sue Euro. She was wearing a cheap waitress uniform, her hair casually tied behind her head, and no makeup on her face, looking much more haggard. When she saw me, her eyes were full of embarrassment and jealousy, and she quickly lowered her head to avoid me, but I didn't care and walked into the coffee shop next door with my friend, laughing. I am no longer the Shin who would get angry and sad because of him. Whether he is doing well now has nothing to do with me. Another half-year passed, and my brother's company opened a branch overseas. He specifically asked me to be responsible for brand operations in the Southeast Asian market. On the day of my departure, my mother and brother went to the airport to see me off. My mother held my hand, her eyes red. Shin, take care of yourself when you get there, and remember to call home often. My brother also patted my shoulder, his tone full of pride. Go ahead and make a name for yourself. I've got things covered at home. If you encounter any trouble, call me anytime, and I'll fly over to help you. I smiled and nodded, took the suitcase from my mother's hand, and turned to walk into the security checkpoint. Through the glass of the checkpoint, I saw my mother and brother still waving, and my heart was filled with warmth and determination. I used to think that my life could not be separated from Jiyu Yanchen, nor from the so-called identity of the young mistress of the Jiyu family. Now I realize that only by getting rid of those constraints can I truly be myself and have my own happiness. Without Jiyu Yanchen, my life has not only not become worse, but has become even more wonderful. I have family who love me, a career I enjoy, free time, and all sorts of possibilities. The plane slowly took off, flew through the clouds, and headed towards the sunny distance. I looked at the blue sky and white clouds outside the window, and couldn't help but smile. Those sad memories were far behind me. From now on, my life will only get better and better, and will be full of sunshine and happiness. That's all for today's story. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe. See you in the next video. Alright, that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe. We'll keep updating with more exciting stories, and we look forward to seeing you next time.